Ladies and gentlemen, here we are. Block Party's out. I'm your host, Mike. We're doing a preview show today. Jacksonville. Well, Green Bay Packers at Jacksonville. If you're enjoying, subscribe. Hit the subscribe button, rate, review us on our Process to Perform channel on YouTube. And hit me up, Mike Wahle 68 on Twitter or Process to Perform on Instagram. The show is always sponsored by Bet Online. Bet Online is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything sports betting, every stat, matchup, breakdown, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during games. With the largest catalog of odds on everything from football, Major League Baseball playoffs, NHL to NBA, and political props, you are going to love those political props, especially the last 2 weeks. I wonder who are the odds makers on those. Nonetheless, with the largest, when the game's over, head over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or maybe unwind with one of over 150 slots games. Head to the website today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. Bet Online. The game starts here. So the Packers are going down to Jacksonville. I actually really like Jacksonville's Navy City, a community. They got a great base down there. Had a bunch of guys, some old classmates when I was in my younger days. You go down there and have a pretty good time down there at Jacksonville Beach. I always remember Jacksonville, man. I used to think about playing against Marcus Stroud and Big John Henderson. And then John Henderson, the trainer, would just slap the shit out of him before the game. They started putting it on they put it on the big screen. They'd slap until he was bleeding. He'd get all angry and stuff. That was the first time I knew that. That was the first game I knew Javon Walker was my ride or die on the Green Bay Packers. We're coming back. We're in third preseason game, and I hadn't been playing. I've been out with a knee injury. So it was my first game back. It was before the 2004 season, and John Henderson and I were jawing the entire first half. And before I knew it, it was Stroud, Henderson, and myself, and I followed them into their tunnel at halftime. Like, we were just going at it. And I didn't even know where I was. Like, you blacked out for a minute, didn't even know where you were. And I looked behind me, and I realized that the ref or somebody is like, dude, look, what the hell you do? Get back to your locker room. What are you doing? And I looked around, it was me and my ride or die, Javon Walker. He was the other guy who had my back, man. Everybody else knew to just go get some orange slices and grab a cup of water, call it a day. It's preseason. Like, just calm down. Ride or die. Javon Walker. So, Packers are favored by 4. This Jags team. Look, I'm a huge Doug Peterson fan, and he's just been a really good football coach for a number of teams now. But, guys, they were 1-5 going into the Pats game last week. They had a real interesting schedule. They were 2 games back-to-back in London. They got absolutely smoked by the Bears. Caleb Williams had his best outing, 35-14, something like that. And then they came back and they beat the Pats last week. It might have saved him his job. I've been on that plane where they're firing the coach, Joe Philbin, on the way back from London. And that is a long ride. So you're happy that they win that game and they didn't have to do that. Certainly they weren't going to fire him midweek over in London because they wouldn't have a replacement. But I have to say, this could be week to week for Doug. The hot seat lists come out, and he's on there pretty steadily. And what you have to hope, if you're a Packers fan, it's like, there's been the hurricanes down there, and I don't know what the travel status is, but Packers usually travel pretty well to Jacksonville and places like that. The Jags have to hope like hell that, maybe the weather kind of keeps the Packer fans away, because if this is a green and gold or, a green out in Jacksonville Stadium and it gets ugly, this could be the last ride for Dougie P, which I hope is not the case, because I think he's a good human, but he's a really good coach. The problem is, amongst other things, they got this quarterback that they got first pick overall in Trevor Lawrence. He's an absolute talent, but their offense is only putting up 20 points a game, 21st in the league. They're putting up 326 yards per game, good for 17th in the league. Doug P, he gives up, and this is the second time he's done this. It's really interesting. So Press Taylor, Zach Taylor's brother, is running coordinator. I don't know if they fired him from calling the plays or he's still calling the plays, but they had this issue with Carson Wentz when Frank Reich left Philly. He took over, and it's just interesting what happens with guys who don't really respect the technical process of footwork and everything with quarterbacks, and they think about scheme maybe more often than not. It's interesting to see what happens to some of these offenses and some of these quarterbacks. Trevor Lawrence is still a very talented quarterback. They just haven't been able to put really anything together as far as a consistent body of work. Travis Etienne is out. He's probably their best offensive player. So that's put a dent in their ground game. They are probably, a run-first football team They put up 5.1 yards per carry, good for fourth in the league. They put up 124 yards per game, good for 12th. It would be a lot more, but quite frankly, they're down a lot, so they can't run the ball as much. And that's probably also contributing to the fact that when we show this, they do get a lot of light boxes because they're down in a lot of football games. The Jags do have talent at the skill positions. Tank Bigsby is playing running back for him. Evan Ingram's a good receiving tight end. He was with the Giants for years. Christian Kirk, obviously the guy he came over from the Arizona Cardinals a couple of years ago on a huge contract, as everybody recalls. The rookie Brian Thomas. They paired with Gabe Davis, who came down from the Bills. Great receiver for Josh Allen. It's just they have a good skill room. They just put together. And Trevor Lawrence, if you watch this tape, he's a threat to run the football. But I think at the bottom line is the scheme you're watching, the dynamic contrast between what you're seeing with Green Bay and then what you see in this tape. And there's a lot. This isn't the only one, but what you see with teams like Green Bay, San Francisco, the Texans, the Rams, that Shanahan style offense, guys that are kind of adding on to that, versus what you see with Jacksonville. It's just a little, it's a little dated, and not that dated doesn't work, but it's not working right now. And they're going to have to find some answers, certainly, for the Green Bay Packers' sake, not this week. But let's watch some tape on these guys. So first things first, first thing I love is finally no tight end additions. We were talking about if you can't dance, don't come to the party. I don't think anybody's going to classify Evan Ingram as blocking tight end. So what do the Jaguars do more often than not? They put him in motion. They split him out. They try to get 5-man boxes. Now, we're going to see this play twice, so make sure you watch this one. So when they motion back out, they set the linebacker out to the left. 48's in on his own. He gets blocked, go off for a 20-yard gain. Now we go under center. You got the two tight end. They're in a 2-by-2 look here with two tight ends hipped off. They're going to go under center with a quick toss. I love this play. I love the toss action because it gets the defense to move, and it gives you a backside opportunity by the tackle on the backside here. If I show this again, watch the backside tackle. He can get all the way through to the mic now. And now as we're looking at this, you got huge lanes, and it's really because of that toss action. And Trevor Lawrence is always a threat, so you at least have to keep your eyes on him on the backside safety as you're coming down. But you see the alley that these guys get. They get a one-on-one block with the backside tackle on the Mike linebacker. Only one person in the screen that can make the play. He's on the other side, so we get down to another 10-yard gain. These are good runs by what I think is a very good Brandon Scherf leads this team at right guard. I think they're a pretty good offensive line, actually. So now they've got multiple tight ends in the game, and they just go back to the well with the same action. Now, they're not going to toss this, and, of course, we've walked the defensive end out, so the tackle's going to slow play this, the right tackle to their side, the left side for us. Exact same play. Just go back to the well. And the Jaguars, you're going to see this a couple times where I don't know that they're putting too much thought into, obviously you dress this up a couple of different ways. This isn't exactly the same action, but, the good schemes, the good running teams, you'll find that they're going to do the same stuff more often than not. They got 3 or 4 things tops that they're really good at, and they just keep repping it. So we got the guard pull and that under center play action. We talk about it all the time. Really great play flakes. You see what happens to the eyes of the linebackers. That allows Ingram to get backside here. Easy throw and catch for yardage. Safety's got to come down and make the play. Simple, simple, simple. We go under center again. They got a 2-by-2 with the tight end hipped off. And you just have to stay disciplined here if the linebacking core for the Green Bay Packers. Now, we call this elephants on the parade. You see all those linemen are really just going to the right. This is for me, this is a little bit easier to read than like the guard pull on the play action. Like for me, you see this and everybody turns to the sideline there like, man, this is not going to be a run. My eyes immediately have to go back to the tight end on the backside to run the drag because they're going to do a keeper here. And this is the thing with Trevor Lawrence that you get. He's got pretty decent accuracy on the move, and he's a very, very good athlete. They used to run all this stuff at Clemson. Remember, they run all that RPO action. We go back to I saw this and I go, okay, I watched the game and I go, okay, the Pats fixed it. So they ran the exact same play. They kept the linebacker 53 and a little bit more, and they just shifted over, so they didn't put him stacked over the shade technique. So he really is unblocked here. Talking about 48, it's like, oh man, I mean, they gave you a chance for success here, buddy. I mean, he's in your hole. Got to make plays now. I show those plays sometimes, not to just get on 48's case because everybody misses plays, but to say that I don't think our guys are going to miss that block or miss that tackle. One thing we've seen from Jeff Hathley's team in the box is that we're not missing a lot of tackles anymore. All right, we got shotgun, and they got another play action look. And I just think they're giving this play a little bit too much respect. I say that, it's kind of tongue in cheek because I don't know that the Jaguars, without their play action game, can really generate yardage, right? I think this is how they generate most of their yardage. So they've got an idea of old school, let's pound the ball, let's get into these different looks and run play action out of it. But it's just like everybody else. We saw this 2 weeks ago where we saw this against the Rams, actually, where we're getting in tighter looks. We're bringing 2 tight ends in. We're trying to go under center so we can get the deep ball, and we're trying to go the under center player pass, keep multiple players in. A lot of teams are doing this now, but you see a couple of these squads are doing this almost exclusively. And, I mean, that's a hell of a good throw right there, to be fair. So now we go 3-by-1, shotgun. And one of my favorite routes, the Dougie P23 Texas. So we used to run 22 Texas damn near 5-6 times a game. And all you're really doing is trying to isolate the linebacker, and you're just running another way to look at the Texas route, just an arrow route. You run it out, you come back in, you get all the space vacated by the middle linebacker from the other side. And usually for the running back, it's just run for days, man. Fantastic. All right, we got another 2-by-2 hipped off here. We got a kind of a nasty look on the bottom where the receiver's at the top of the numbers, close to the tackle. The Pats are in that 3-4 look. And I just think that, the throwing, boy, wow, I did not catch that spelling. Everybody else pointed out, what a fool. Issue. But this kid can absolutely throw darts, man. He's got a great arm on him. He just throws things effortlessly. I think the issue that you have there is consistency. I think the issue is footwork. But when he gets his feet underneath him, really, quite frankly, when he's on the run, Trevor Lawrence is a really good quarterback, and he's a guy that can kind of explode and have a 350-yard game if you allow him to. I just don't think the way that the Packer defense is playing right now, I would not expect these guys. Their average is, I think, 20.7 points a week, and I would expect them to be right around there, if not a little bit less. I just, maybe they're ripe for one. I don't know, but I just feel like the Packers are going to have a couple turnovers on defense. I just don't know how much we have to respect the kind of, when they spread out and they run the football. I think that's one thing. When they bunch up and they run the under center stuff, whether they're handing the ball off with the toss look or the handoff that we saw, or if they're running the under center play action, I just don't know the way that we're committing people to the box. I don't know that he's going to have a good pocket to set up in, one. And two, I just think that, our box 7, if you want to include the safety in there or not, I think our box 7, especially the way Evan Williams is playing towards the line of scrimmage, I just don't know that they have the personnel, if they bring more people to the party, that can overcome. In other words, let's say that their 5 and against our 4 plus our linebackers is an equal match, which I don't know that it is. But let's say it is. I don't think the additional people they bring to the party, whether it's the tight ends or the receivers in the blocking game, are going to be able to kind of deal with you talk about Bullard or Williams or McKinney off the edge, or if we bring a third linebacker in the game. I just don't think that plays into their favor. So for those reasons, you really see the Packers having a strong defensive game against this football team. Having said all that, defensively, I really like watching the Jaguars play football. I love the way they fly around. I love their box. I'm talking about their box player. I really like their box players, and it really starts with Josh Allen, and he hyphenates his name now. I'm going to call him Josh. I think it's Josh Allen Hines, and I don't know. It's weird. It's weird when dudes hyphenate their names for some reason. I don't know, it's weird. I don't know what the story is back there. The backstory is there. But Josh Allen Hines is a phenomenal player. He's a little bit slow this week or this year on his numbers, but he's a very, very good football player. He's a good pass rusher. He's good against the run. A leader on the team. He really plays. He's a really, really underrated good football player. Trayvon Walker was really, really high pick a couple years ago. He is physically coming into his own. I'll show a couple of snaps where you're like, this guy is definitely got some lead in his pencil. He still is a very raw player. I don't know that he's ever going to be like a pass rush technician. He kind of reminds me, not in body type, but in like, I'm going to out athlete you and figure it out. Julius Peppers. When I played with Pep, it wasn't like Pep had this move that it was like a go-to move, like a Reggie White club or something, or a chop club rip from Warren Sapp. Like he didn't have that. Trayvon doesn't have that either. He just kind of has like I'm going to find the leverage points that don't work for you and make them work for me. And for that reason, I don't know how many sacks he's going to have. Like, I don't think he's ever going to break the sack record, but he's just one of those guys, whether it's run or pass, like, you better know where he is and you better buckle up your chin strap because he likes to bang. I really like Devon Hamilton on the inside. I think he's a good player. Devin Lloyd was a first-round pick a couple of years ago, I think in 2022. Really great instinct for the football. First of all, he's a good mover, and he plays towards the line of scrimmage. He's just that kind of player that we like to watch. Edrin Cooper, we talked about Isaiah McDuffie, those guys. Same kind of Wilson, same kind of player, likes to play downhill, aggressive to the football, really, really good athlete. These guys are just generally good against the run. They have 4.2 yards per carry, only 102 yards on the ground a game. Now, I think part of that, I think that's good for sixth in the league, by the way, but part of that is because, Josh Allen hasn't been getting the sack numbers. They've rushed for a lot, and they have been, just absolutely gashed in the passing game. I think they're 31st in passing. They're given almost 28 yards per game, good for 30th in the league, 376 yards per game, good in 27. What's confusing about this team when you watch them is they have so many disguised coverages that aren't like just turn out to be cover two, Covington Winford, Tampa 2, drop zones. Last week, they actually, and I'll show it on tape, they have a drop zone where Josh Allen, who's arguably their best defensive player, best pass rusher, certainly, is dropping from the right defensive end spot to go cover the running back, I think Raymond Stevenson, who runs a swing pass to their left. He catches the pass, Josh Allen, because Josh Allen's playing in space going, what the hell am I doing? I'm a pass rusher. And they go in for a touchdown. You're going, like, who drew that play up? How does that possibly make sense? And even if they had a miscommunication error, it's like, sometimes when coordinators get too cute, I will never forget the first week I was at this story time. The first week I was at Miami, I forgot who we were playing, but Cam Wake's out there. Cam Wake was an absolute dog, right? This guy could play, pass rush extraordinaire. Just figured out, like, I can do this move better than everybody else, and I can counter here, and figured it out, right? On the last play of the game, to lose the game, he's got like 2 sacks and like 3 pressures, tackle for loss. He's having one of those like all-pro games. And on the last play of the defensive game, to lose the game, they drop zone him in coverage against a running back on a wheel route, and the wheel route beats him because he's a pass rusher for a touchdown, and we lose the football game. And I just remember everybody walked in the locker room and like, it was dead silent because they had, every player on the team knew that was a terrible football call. Every player on the team knew during the week that if they run that during the week, Cam Wake's going to get beat because he's a damn defensive end, getting a wheel route run on by a running back. And it was like, it's one of those things. Sometimes you watch these teams and you go like, what? I'm watching this tape and I go, are they running cover 2 again? And it's like a soft cover 2. Here's the thing. If the pass rush doesn't get home, expect to see Darnell Savage, who's a friend of the Packers, obviously from the last couple of years. He's going to be on the other end of some real chunk plays because these guys don't have a lot of answers in the secondary. And quite frankly, I just don't know if they're being put in a position to find success. So let's watch a little tape on him. All right. I don't know how that first one got cut off, but it is what it is. Take advantage of the space, right? So, first of all, I always love when the tight end's got his hand on the guy. Like, is it really that loud in London that you can't hear the snap count? I don't know. So take advantage of the space. They've shifted all the way over. You're never going to get that again. For the life of me, I can't figure out. And these, the Pats got a young quarterback and all that. They're not checking out whatnot. But the angles here just make a lot of sense the other way. Let's watch middle linebacker here, though. Really good snap to the ball. Attacking downhill. Same thing. And they do two things here that I really like. So the first thing is Hamilton does a really good job of on the center guard. Is that center guard? Or is that guard and tackle? Guard and tackle. So on the backside B, he turns this into a 1v1 block. He attacks the B gap. So this is something that we do pretty well when we're asked to do it. I'm talking about Kenny Clark in particular. They turn it into a 1v1, so that tackle is kind of useless right now. And that allows Devin Lloyd, who loves to slice and play downhill, that allows him to cut through to the backside gap because that guard can't get off his, he's essentially being blocked now by the defensive tackle. And then we see they're trying to sift on the backside. Josh Allen is far too active to sift against. He's going to end up making that play 10 out of 10 times. They drop down into a jam. And this is where I think sometimes when you watch film, I usually just watch film for this show. I just watch the last game. But if really game planning this team, you probably got to go away from what the Patriots do with a rookie quarterback, because this is an abort play. They drop down and put a heavy shade or a gap player, and then they play a 4-eye, and then they play the linebacker outside. We saw this the Packers against the Texans last week. You should not be running the ball to the offense's right or left on the screen. This doesn't make a whole lot of sense because somebody's going to lose here. And it just turns out they all lose, right? I mean, this is just chaos. And, the Pats line I know has been struggling. But you want to talk about guys that are penetrating and trying to play on their side of the line of scrimmage all day. This Sunday game is certainly a demonstration of that. Really good flock to the football. Again, we can just be fans of the way teams play and still be fans of the Green Bay Packers. I like the way these guys play, man. They're fun to watch. Okay. This is a new segment on our show. Who gets it worse? Let's start out with the right guard. Does the right guard get it worse here as he gets bull rushed into the backfield Trayvon Walker, as he pulls, just lifts him off the ground and causes a complete car wreck at the point of attack? That was pretty bad. But is it as bad as the backside guard who's trying to cut off 52, and he just says, I think I'll just throw you 2 yards, 3 yards into the backfield and throw you into the running back's feet so you get a tackle for loss? I don't know that I've seen a play this year. By the way, the correct answer for everybody playing is left guard. I don't know if I've seen a defensive tackle do this to a guard in a while. I mean, it's like he got shot. It was like a deer hitting a train right there, man. I mean, that was an absolute shot, man. And if I didn't even know who 52 was, but until this week, man, I'm a fan of him now. Unbelievable. So this is a little bit undisciplined, and this is where I think the Jags, you talk about the passing game, and this play works out for them, and maybe they're just doing this because they know it's a rookie quarterback, but you see this, and you see Josh Jacobs and Jordan Love in the backfield, close your eyes a little bit, and if they're bringing a cross dog, okay, I'll buy that. If they're bringing the A-gap with Devin Lloyd trying to green dog this because the running back's going to stay in and he decides not to, I mean, you just watch this play kind of the way, because they're kind of going into the same gap. And now you look at the running backs, the running back's open for a lot. I mean, this turns into an explosive play for the offensive football team because you don't do your job. So these are the kind of the plays where you go, yeah, it worked out, but are we excited about the opportunity to leak the running back out and get him into open space? Can we run a bunch of deep crossers or go routes, and can we get him into space if it's a situation where we think the Jags are going to bring pressure, or we can run that Texas route that we saw last time with the Jags run, because these guys, I think they can cover 1v1. Devin Lloyd can certainly cover 1v1 in space, but they do a couple of things like this where they get a little bit antsy about going to get that quarterback. And again, that could be just because they're playing against a rookie. So you got 3 to a side here. And this is what I'm talking about with Walker. And look, you're only making this play, quite frankly, And Aquana's a really good player, but the quarterback just backs up too much. But look at the bull. I mean, he's not even trying to use his hands. He just takes his right shoulder and says, I'm going to stuff it in your chest. And if the quarterback keeps backing up, I'm just going to get home. Big, strong man. Big, strong man. So I think, again, I really like watching that defensive football team, but you have to – I probably highlighted what we need to worry about, maybe more so than what we don't need to worry about, because their secondary has not had a lot of success this year playing against decent quarterbacks. And I think we have a good quarterback with a great receiving room. Our tight end is turning out to be one of the better tight ends in the league. Certainly, we have multiple people at the running back position that can run the screen game, catch the ball in the backfield now. So you have to be excited about the opportunity. What's always interesting in these games is when you look at, if you go into your game plan and you're looking at their defense, you go, okay, well, what do they do well? It's like, well, in a vacuum, they rush the passer well. Like, I don't know if their stats back that up, but you know that they have two highly touted pass rushers. They're good against the run. They're ranked, somewhere between 4th and 10th, depending on what metric you're using, but they're good against the run. Okay, what do they like? Where should we attack? And it's like all signs point to secondary. They're 31st in the league. Okay, what coverages? Well, they're running a lot of cover 2. They're running invert. They're doing a bunch of nonsense. Like, a lot of the stuff that they're doing doesn't make a ton of sense. So how do we exploit it? How fast does it take us to figure all this stuff out? And I just don't know the answer to that question. As far as you want to make it as obvious as possible with, I think, the Green Bay Packers, that you start going, all right, are we gonna go with the orbit motion in the backfield? Are we going to do the reverse orbit that we did last week to identify man cover? Like, what is the new wrinkle that we're going to do in the backfield to get those extra touches? Like, I want to see another game where you have 10 guys receiving the football, 7 guys rushing it, having 350, 400 yards on offense. I think that's possible with this team, because inevitably, if you spread these guys out and you get into a box situation, the only real thing that makes the thing that I think that makes the run game good. And again, that tape is a little bit misleading because the Patriots are just really struggling. But the backside pursuit, either by the linebacker or the defensive end, is really, really high level. So you have to account for them, whether it's with cross flow, the tight end or receiver staying in on the backside to block that defensive end. Like, something has to give, and so you have to kind of build your offense out around that. If you do that, I think you're going to have a lot of success. So I only have a couple listener questions here that I wanted to hit. The first, maybe the most important one, is what's your initial thought on how the Packers attack this team with two good defensive ends? I think that both matchups are good competitive matchups. So I think our left tackle, I think Rashid versus Josh Allen, is a good competitive match. You got to remember, Arden Key moved on, so they don't have that third guy that you're going like, oh, when Arden comes in, Arden's a really good pass rusher as well. So I think that's a really good matchup, and they'll play most of the snaps. Like, these guys don't like taking a lot of snaps off. I think Zach Tom versus Trayvon Walker, I think is an interesting matchup in that, again, Trayvon has this thing where he's just trying to bully you. He's really not trying to beat you with a chop club rip, beat you with an inside spin, beat you with a, some sort of stutter stab with an inside club. Like, he's not trying to do a lot of that stuff. What he's trying to do is, I'm going to run right there, and I dare you to stop me. And if you don't get your hands on me, if you don't punch and extend, then over the course of the game, I can run the hoop. And they're going to see on tape last week that that's kind of what worked last week against Zach at different times during the game. Just, can I get my shoulder pad to his chest? Can I get him to turn? So Zach's got to do a really good job of being able to punch and extend there, and just really, let's tighten up footwork a little bit. And I think that I don't know how many times you need to chip and you need to concern yourself with all that. I think you do need to do it. You do need to mix in the play action. You need to move the pocket, because those are the opportunities for our tackles in particular to mix up their sets. so that when it's 3rd and 8 or 3rd and 10, it's a got to have it play. You can show your best, and your best has to win. So that's how I would attack it. But really, as long as you have the threat of run, which we always do, as long as you have the threat of quarterback keep, which we always do, I think a lot of this will be, it's certainly a different game. Drake May versus Jordan Love is a different game in a lot of ways, obviously, but one of the ways is the complexity of the offense and then the opportunity for that quarterback to have experience and know when to move and when not to. The only other question we had really for today was, what's up with all the drops? Scheme issue or skill issue? We talked about this for the last couple of weeks. When you see some throws that aren't in the pocket, or you see some drops that are, semi behind him, above, more often than not, just from experience of talking to kind of everybody in the locker room. I certainly don't throw or run routes, but quarterbacks miss throws, and quarterbacks, Jordan Love will miss throws, and he's missed some. He's always going to miss some throws, but a lot of times, especially when you're looking at like in cuts or like more timing around. Like in other words, if it's a go route or like a high angle route and they miss it, they just miss it more often than not. If it's the heavier the angle, the difference in how you come out of the route matters more. The angle you come out, the speed and everything. And the variation in that has an effect on where the ball is, maybe more so than the consistency of the quarterback throw, if you have a good quarterback, which we do. So I think a lot of that, if you see things that don't look quite in sync in the game, you just think of it this way, that the more severe the angle that the receiver has to make, the more variation will affect the way the optics of the throw, if that makes sense. So if I do it perfect and the guy throws it like he does, if the quarterback throws it the same way 20 times and we have 20 different ways the guy runs the route, the ball's going to look different 20 times in a row, if that makes sense. That's how I look at it. But this is going to be a fun game. This is, I think the good thing about these games is now you've got a team who's somehow only 3rd in the NFC North, but you're at 2-5 now. Wait, that's backwards. 5-2. Playing against a team that you're 4-point favorites on the road. I think it's a 49.5 point over under. And considering the Jags only averaged 20 points, you're looking at probably a 30-point game by the Green Bay Packers, according to the sports bettors. So this is one of those games that, bring a bag of sandwiches and a case of beer to the tailgate. Have a good time. Go watch the Packers beat up on the Jags. I think I hope that they keep Doug and let him ride this through, and maybe he makes some changes at a couple different coaching positions. But he's a really good coach, and I'm always rooting for him because he was a great teammate. But I think he's going to really struggle this weekend. I think the Packers are going to have a good one. So that said, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks to our sponsor, Bet Online, and as always, got any questions? Hit me up, Michael68 on Twitter, Process to Perform on Instagram. Check out the Process to Perform page. If you subscribe to it, you'll get all the clips that we put out for this game as well. Until then, enjoy the weekend, guys. We'll see you soon.